welcome to Best Laid Plans. This is your host, Sarah Hart-Unger, and this is the podcast where we talk all things planning and planning adjacent. This episode airs in early August, and I'm going to do something I haven't done for a while, which is talk to you with a bunch of products right next to me. No, this is not video, but I will provide some pictures in today's show notes if you would like a visual. And I feel like it is time to do a little physical product review. So I am going to talk about two items in detail today. One is the Order Out of Chaos planner, a planner that I am intending to have my middle schooler try this year. And the second one is something called the Fast Brain Friend Daily Productivity Planner. So we will get into both of these products. They're both a little bit different. You may not have heard of them, but it's kind of what the podcast is for, right? To bring some maybe off the beaten path techniques and products to attention. Neither of these are sponsored. Neither of these were sent to me by the manufacturer, although I will thank listener Sadie, who sent me the Fast Brain Friend. She had ordered it for herself and she tried it and found that it wasn't exactly what she was looking for. And since it came in a multi-pack, she thought a great use would be to send one over to me so that I could share the details of it with you. So thank you so much for sending me that, Sadie. All right, so we're going to get started with the Order Out of Chaos planner first. So this planner I learned about from, I think, one of the bigger ADHD podcasts out there, and they actually had endorsed it. I don't know if the company was affiliated. I kind of got maybe the impression that the two things were affiliated, and I'll put the information in the show notes as to what the actual company that makes this planner is, but it is called the Order Out of Chaos Planner, and it is specifically designed to be great for students that have ADHD, although I absolutely think this planner could be good for any student, and extra bonus that it might have some features that would appeal to those who need that extra layer of organization or direction. So this planner comes in two sizes and it is geared to students. I don't know that it specifically is geared to middle school students because I could see this layout working just as well with high school students, but I think I found it by searching for planners recommended for middle school students. And the reason is because it's all based around classes and the work that you have to do for various classes. And I can see repurposing this for someone who wanted to use it to look at other areas of life. Like instead of classes, you might have different categories or different kids, kind of repurposing it for a family planner of sorts. But it's definitely geared to those who are in school and have classes and work for those classes to keep track of. It came in two sizes. I chose to order the smaller size just because I felt like, I don't know, the less obtrusive, the more likely my child might actually be to use it. And the larger size was 8.5 by 11, which sounded a little bit big for a planner. This one is square, actually. It's 8.5 by 8.25, so almost a square. But when you open it, the cover kind of sticks out with thicker paper farther than the pages do, kind of to give you an overhang where you see the same thing every week that you only have to write down once. This kind of reminds me of some of the layouts in Laurel Denise's planner. I know she loves to do that thing where basically like parts of the page turn so you don't have to rewrite to see the bigger picture. And this is kind of similar, except that instead of the weekly pages turning and you being able to see the month, the part that is static and stays the same is a grid where you get to write down which classes that you have along the sides of the page, as well as an hourly schedule from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you're like, I need a visual, again, please go to my show notes. I'm going to fill one out, mock it up. That's theshoebox.com and look for today's show notes. But just imagine that we have a slightly wider overhang again, so that each class is listed and only has to be written one time. It also came with a bunch of stickers so that if you had maybe certain classes in the fall and then switched over to different classes in the spring, you could cover it up with stickers and then have it continue to be used for the entire year. This is important because I know my kids do change some of their classes or the order of their classes, and so I can imagine them doing a mid-year switch up. So it's great that they come out with that tool. So getting a little bit more specific, the cover is kind of a plasticky vinyl feeling cover. That was my little sound effect, rubbing my fingers around it. It has a clear spiral binding. Not sure if this is going to be up to the durability challenge of the entire year, but maybe. I mean, it looks okay, and it's not a super heavy book, so I can imagine it probably can deal with getting moved around and tossed around in the bag without too much stress on the actual book. In terms of the layout inside, the aesthetics are very businesslike, and they're designed this way on purpose, they say, not to be distracting. Kind of reminds me of, let's say, Planner Pad in that regard, or the ProAction Planner. And in fact, all of those planners are planners I've heard have been favorites of those who have ADHD or ADHD-like tendencies. So that kind of fits with this product as well. All right, so doing a little bit of a page by page. Oh, and the covers are very neutral. They are just plain. They say the year 2025, 2026, and then they have a little tiny logo and say academic planner. They come in navy blue, black, cream color, and pink. So I order the navy to make it kind of inoffensive. I could imagine my kids would probably want to cover this with stickers, and this vinyl seems like it would hold stickers well. So that would work out very nicely. It's $20.99 with free shipping over $50 on their website. So I did not actually go back to look what the shipping cost is for just one planner at $20.99, although I think I paid it. So I think it was something like $10. So definitely a better deal if you're buying a few of these to get that free shipping. All right, so opening up the planner, we have space to put name and information as well as your class schedule. There are some pages here that kind of show examples of how to use the planner, as well as a page called the Study Planning Guide and a page called Project Planning Guide. Now, at first I was like, what is the point of having one copy of each of these guides when clearly most kids are going to have more than one test throughout the year and more than one project? But then I noticed that on the bottom of those guides, it says to download additional copies. You can do that at products.orderoutofchaos.com. So hopefully those are free downloads and not something that you have to pay for, or I guess you could mock up your own. But the idea is that this would, if your kid had a test coming up or a project, that they would kind of work backwards to figure out when they needed to get started and when they needed to, what the key steps were to working on that. All right, so we have that spread. Then we have mini months. I always love a planner with mini months. So this is 12 months over the course of a 2-page spread where you could mark. I would probably use this for my kid to help him figure out where spring break is, where big family trips are, maybe weekends away that we have. If he was still doing soccer, we'd put the soccer tournaments, things like that. Maybe he'd put his school games on there, days off from school. It's a big picture that gives you something to refer to. And then we go straight into the meat of the planner, starting with a monthly calendar. Now, the monthly calendar is kind of squished vertically, so the days, each box is quite narrow and quite tall, but this still would be a nice place to mark big assignments that are due. And there's a notes page to the other side of that is encouraged to be used to write down any kind of long-term monthly projects or assignments. So just by having this space, it might encourage your child to think ahead. Oh, do I have something due at the end of September? And what might that be? And where would that kind of fit into my life in terms of when to do it? So we have that every single month. Then for the actual weekly spreads of the planner, which makes up most of the planners, this really is a weekly style planner. You have 5 weekday columns, and then you have 1 column for the weekend with Saturday and Sunday stacked. Then the layout gets really kind of unique and specific. So remember, I mentioned there's a little overhang section that's going to be the same every single week where the classes are written down. So for each weekday, you basically have a box that is dedicated for each class that has 4 lines worth of space to write in, as well as a little checkbox that says done. So you can imagine that when you get assignments for each class, you can then write it in that box. And then when they're done, you can satisfyingly check them off. There is also a row that is not specified for a class. It says to do. So any other to-do items for that day could be written there and checked off. And then on the bottom, there is a whole place for the schedule with hourly blocks from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. These rows are fairly narrow. So if you have someone that's like a really big handwriting kid, it might not be ideal. And to be honest, that might be a deal breaker for us. My son does write on the larger side, but we'll give this a try and see. I could also imagine that he could actually, since he doesn't have a ton of like 1 hour long events, he could probably write one. He can kind of ignore the lines or kind of write his stuff over the course of 2 lines, if that makes sense. The interesting thing with the schedule part is that if you're in traditional school, a lot of that schedule is going to be blocked off as like, I'm in class. But I do think the fact that there are spaces for the hours of 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. would be useful for kids that have a lot of activities because it might help them see, okay, on Tuesday night, I don't have an activity. And look, I have a test on Thursday. So guess when it would make sense for me to study for that test. The layout is similar, again, to Planner Pad or ProAction Planner for adults in that you really can see each day's schedule, but then you're also seeing each day's tasks in the same place, which I think really helps kind of connect the dots for people that struggle to figure out where priorities are and where they have open time. So I can see that being really functional for the right kid. The weekend does not have any space for tasks. It's just an hourly timeline. And then there's a box on the bottom right that's kind of for the entire week that says remember to. It's fairly small. It's like 10 lines total. But I can imagine if you had some key tasks for the week and you didn't want to slot them into that daily to do, you could put them in the remember to section. And then this layout just like repeats throughout the planner. I think it would be very functional in terms of checking off homework that is done, in terms of seeing where your free time is when you have activities, tracking, oh, this is the day I stay late after school. I mean, it kind of depends. If your kid really prefers digital tools and they're good with Google Calendar, maybe they're in high school, it doesn't bother them to be getting out their phone to look at that stuff, then this might not be something that they need. But if they get distracted when they pull out their device or they just really benefit from seeing everything on paper, then I think this could be really helpful. For my kids starting in middle school, pretty much all of their assignments are laid out online anyway, so it's not like they don't have anything to refer to. But I think in terms of managing multiple things that are due, not the next day, but perhaps the next week or in 3 days, and trying to remember how to prioritize what, having a tool like this will be really helpful in order to prevent everything from being left to the last minute. I could be being optimistic about that, but I just think it provides a really nice visual to see what and when is due and when the kid would actually have time to get it done without things being stressful. So yeah, that's pretty much the meat of this planner. I cannot tell you that it works yet. We have not tried it. I cannot tell you if my kid loves it or is thriving with it or not. I will definitely provide an update. In fact, if he is willing, I would love him to share what worked or didn't work about this planner in a few months. And I'm fully prepared for it to go in either direction, but we're going to give it a try. And in fact, when I bought it for him, my older daughter also looked at it and said, hey, I want one. So I might order another one. But then she also expressed interest in perusing the planner aisle at Target. So we will see what happens there. All right, we will be back after a break, and I'm going to talk about a very unusually laid out planner geared to adults. Today's episode is brought to you with support from Green Chef. I love fall energy, like the fresh start of back to school, plus all of that delicious fall food. Warm, homey flavors just make everything feel comforting. Plus, with the new seasonal energy, it's the perfect time to reset and bring healthy habits back into focus. Green Chef can help you do just that, even if your season is packed with school festivities and events. Green Chef's meals are made up of real, clean ingredients, and they help you build lasting healthy habits without the hassle. With 80-plus dietitian-approved weekly meal options, Green Chef makes it easy to find meals that fit your lifestyle. Pick from Mediterranean, gluten-free, plant-based, and protein-heavy. There's even a gut and brain health option and calorie-smart choices too. They really are family-friendly, and my kids are always so excited for our Green Chef dinners. Make this fall your healthiest yet with Green Chef. Head to greenchef.com/50bestlaid and use code 50bestlaid to get 50% off your first month, then 20% off for 2 months with free shipping. That's code 50bestlaid, as in 50bestlaid, at greenchef.com/50bestlaid. Today's episode comes to you with support from IXL. The autumn season is in full swing, and IXL helps keep your homeschool lessons or school enrichment structured and steady, whether you're following a set curriculum or creating your own. I personally love the simplicity that IXL offers. I don't have to dig through endless resources. IXL is organized by grade and topic, so I can jump right into what each child needs. My kids have been using IXL for years, and I really trust it to help solidify concepts and meet them where they are. Just like each leaf changes at its own pace, each child learns differently. IXL adapts so kids can move ahead when they're ready or revisit the topic until it truly clicks. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And Best Laid Plans listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/plans. Visit IXL.com/plans to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price. Today's episode is brought to you with support from Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. That's why you should say yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for $15 per month. Mint Mobile's plans start at $15 per month, and there are no unexpected overages or hidden fees. All Mint Mobile plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number, along with all your existing contacts. So ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/BLP. That's mintmobile.com/BLP. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 per month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, I am back, and we are definitely going to switch gears and talk about a planner that is not marketed for kids, although I think in the hands of maybe the right teen, maybe it would be a hit. This is a really unusual planner. It is made in Australia. It's called the Fast Brain Friend A5 Daily Productivity Planner. And as I mentioned, I have listener Sadie to thank for this because she had ordered it for herself and found it not perfect, but very interesting and thought it would be really fun for me to take a look at it. So she did send this one to me. The other one I purchased myself. And what this is a small A5 notebook. It's sewn and it's 52 pages, so it's pretty thin and portable. And you get one for each month. So the idea is you could buy one in a different color. They have a set of 12, which is in a very pleasing array of 12 colors, kind of neutral, modern-looking colors. Or you could just buy one and try it out for a month's time. The cover is kind of a coated cardboard. Their description says it's a soft paperback cover with a tactile butter matte finish. I don't know about butter matte, but I guess I see what they're going with that. It's pretty smooth. And again, it only needs to last a month, so I don't think durability is a huge issue here. I think this would be up to the task of making it at least a month in my bag. And it does lay flat because it is thread sewn. The paper inside is 100 GSM uncoated paper in what they call a soft neutral cream. I did a little bit of a pen test. It's not very toothy paper, but it is very non-smudge prone. It's got kind of a dry texture, I would say, and absorbs ink pretty well. My gel pen, my mild liner, and my ballpoint worked really well. And when I wrote with a brush pen, there's like a little bit of ghosting. So it's not the world's thickest paper, but it's nice. It's pleasing to write on, and it definitely doesn't smudge. So for me, that is always a plus. Now, what is in this planner? Very interesting. I'm going to walk you through it. And actually, I'm going to read you what the description says in here because it's just great. It's written by Alanah Purtell, who goes by Creator's Friend. And inside it says, traditional planners seem like they will be helpful, but when your brain is wired differently, they can very quickly feel overwhelming. This collection of notebooks is an intentional design for the neurodivergent mind. And then she writes, we've used a minimalist bullet journaling aesthetic to keep the chaos to a minimum and give that brilliant brain of yours room for its daily creative outlet. Now, I think this planner is super interesting, but I found it more chaotic than your typical planner. So I guess it's all on how you perceive things and whether it works. But I can see that someone who likes to look at things really differently and just wants a fresh eye on what a planner could be might really have a lot of fun using this planner. All right, so opening it up, we have new month preparation, which is just a undated monthly calendar. So you would have to put the dates in yourself. For me, I wouldn't mind that at all. That would be kind of like fun to do, a little bit of a methodical calming exercise to do at the beginning of the month. And then on the right, you have a whole bunch of boxes so that if you want to put tasks or things that you want to get to through the month, they labeled it list maker, but you could put monthly goals or anything like that. Then we get into the weekly spread. And this is an interesting weekly spread. I really like it in part because they built in the grocery list. And for me, that's useful, but not everybody necessarily would benefit from that. However, I do like this, and it is aesthetically pleasing. So on our weekly prep page, it says new week preparation. You have a tiny little calendar on the left where you can highlight which dates of the week you're actually filling this out for. There's a space for 4 priorities. There's a habit tracker for up to 4 habits. I like that it's only 4, not like 10 habits, because these habit trackers can get overwhelming really fast. Then there is a linear kind of grid-like thing for scheduled activities where you can put the time of the activity and maybe the date, and then whether you've done it. Kind of an interesting way to look at the week, because it's not like we have 7 days to visualize on this part, just kind of a list. And then the other side of the page, The right half of the spread is all used for meal planning and grocery list. There is a place to put your meals for morning, midday, and evening. And interestingly, the days that are demarcated here go from Sunday to Saturday. So I guess in some ways, this is like a Sunday weekly start kind of a layout. For some people, that would be a turnoff. However, this is a very minor feature of the page. And if I were using it, I would just have that Sunday box be designated for like the next Sunday's meals and would just start with Monday. So not a deal breaker, even though I certainly prefer a Monday start to a Sunday start. So you have 5 of these spreads so that for any month that has 5 weeks in it or 5 starts to the week, you can use it. And then there are 7 different daily layouts that you are encouraged to pick and choose throughout the month as to what works for any given day or alternate to keep the novelty going. Super, super interesting. And actually, just counting the number of layouts we actually have here, well, we have 7, and it looks like they are in there 4 times. So I guess 28 of these spreads. I will double check that. If it's different, I'll put it in the notes, but I believe it is 28. So that might mean you don't need a daily spread for every single day in a month if the month has 31 days, but realistically, that's probably true for most of us. So I think for most people, this would last a month, and the spreads are all different and they are quite unique. So just to describe a few of them, one of them is kind of a, it shows the date, you can circle the day, and then you can put tasks among 4 categories is the way it's set up. And then there's a big dot grid area for side quests, so very open-ended. Another spread shows kind of the page divided like a little round sun-like projection on the right-hand side of the page that then divides the page into 4 quadrants for morning, midday, afternoon, and evening. And then you write your priority in the center. Kind of unique way of looking at the day. I like it. Our third layout is one that I can imagine my perhaps boring self using, which is a just hourly timeline with a dot grid. So I can imagine you could put your to-do list on one side of here and then time track on the other. Kind of looks like a Stellology notebook page, except instead of the timeline being on the left, it's in the middle. Very functional. The third layout has space for midday, morning, afternoon, and evening priorities, as well as little kind of time boxes for you to put what's happening when, and then another large box for distractions. It's just labeled distractions. An incredibly unique layout has kind of a zigzag going from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. It goes left, right, left, right, left, right. I can't even describe this, but for someone that wants to visualize their day like a timeline coiled up and then write what's happening amongst those different parts of the day, this would be a fun way to do it. Definitely could get very artistic with this page, I think. And then there is another kind of more traditional priority-based layout. I think if I were going to pick one that I would use the most often, it would either be this kind of traditional one or the very last one, which has a timeline going from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., a dot grid on the right, and then a mental inventory along the bottom, which says working on, should be working on, and want to be working on. Super interesting to maybe see the differences between what might end up in those columns. So that's pretty much what's in this planner. There's no unique content at the end. It just has all of these 7 different ways to visualize the day repeated 4 times. And then the idea is that the next month you throw it out or you keep it and you start again. So for someone that's just like, I want a new way to look at my days, I'm really attracted to the idea of starting a fresh new little book every single month. This could be a really fun thing to use. It's definitely a bullet journal aesthetic for someone that doesn't want to set up their own bullet journal. For me, I think the only hiccup would be that not all of those layouts really reflect the way I like to visualize the day. I'm pretty picky about it, which is why I tend to like to draw the layouts out myself in a blank notebook. But for some people, they might really enjoy having that structure and playing with it. So I will have some fun tonight doing some mock-ups of this, and I will include these in the show notes as well. Oh, and I forgot the pricing information. So this does ship from Australia, and I worried, oh my gosh, is this going to be a like $40 shipping kind of a situation? But no, they do have multiple currencies on their website, and I was able to look at it in US dollars. The shipping was actually free if you bought 12 months of notebooks. So that was $79. And this was a sale price. I think they're doing some kind of mid-year sale right now. So I can't guarantee that will still be the price on their site by the time this episode goes live. But as of late July, it was $79 for the 12 books for the year. And then that got you free shipping. Or if you were just purchasing one notebook, the sale price was $10, and that did charge a $10 shipping. So obviously, the more you buy, the less you pay in shipping. And interestingly, both times it said that I earned a free gift of a mystery notebook. So you would not only receive this little softbound notebook, but you would receive a mystery notebook as well. I also noted that they had a companion yearly planning tool. So I do really like that, because if you're using this for your month, it does not address anything longer range. And so I can imagine having like a folio where you put this and your yearly planning tool, which they call Future Planner, and then you use those together throughout the year, kind of like Traveler's Notebook style, except they're A5 size, not Traveler's Notebook size. All right, well, this has been so much fun. I haven't done a product review in quite some time, and I did actually want to briefly touch on my own product dilemma, which is that I am at the last year of my 5-year journal. And I actually wrote a blog post about my 5-year journal recently about how much I enjoy that it forces me to pick something interesting about each day and identify it. I recently saw my friend wrote a blog post inspired by a newsletter that Laura Vanderkam wrote in her Vanderhacks, just talking about the idea of making each day unique and how that tends to slow down time and really enrich our life experiences, like to find one thing in each day that set that day out. And as I reflected on that, I thought about how, you know what, I do that. That's exactly what I do in my 5-year journal. Like, I'm always writing kind of what happened that day that made that day special or different. And I have my journal next to me, and some of the things I write might say, I don't know, I'm just going to a random day. Here's June 20th, 2024. Annabelle had her very second gymnastics team practice, and I read a lot of the Sicilian Inheritance. See, I remember that book. That made that day special. Oh, and I wrote, finally started writing. Oh my gosh, does that mean I finally started writing my book in June of 2024? I'm not sure that's true. Maybe my book proposal, because I don't think I was even doing the book writing, but I put a little sticker there and wrote, finally started writing. So that's exciting. Or another day might say that I had a really busy afternoon, but handled it incredibly well. And I did time tracking today. That was some random day in 2022. If I go back to 2021, when I had little kids and we were in like COVID land, my things say something like, worked out, my kids played soccer, and we did takeout from Chicken Kitchen. Okay, so maybe not all of these things are incredibly unique things. Oh, and I even wrote the ages of the kids on that one. They were 3, almost 7, and almost 9. Wow. And I wrote the book I was reading. So it's just a little snapshot. It's what made that day different from the other days. Some of these entries are more momentous than others. I am so glad I have this. And I am not someone who keeps my planners. Like, I generally ditch them at the end of the year, but I will not be ditching this, like, ever. This is an heirloom. My ancestors can throw it out. That's fine. But I'm going to be keeping it for the foreseeable future. And I am torn as to whether I'm going to use a Hobonichi 5-year for my next block of 5 years, or whether I'm going to switch to the Midori 5-year diary, which I have and is totally blank, so I haven't even touched it. But now that I'm looking at it and looking at my Hobonichi and looking how much I tend to write and how I sometimes use the opposite side, I think I'm just going to get another Hobonichi, because I don't think this book is going to have enough space for me. And I'm going to see if perhaps my teen might be interested in inheriting this one from me. And if not, then I will maybe do it as a giveaway, because it's so pretty. It's undated. So, it can be used at any point, but I don't know. I just had so much success with this A5 size Hobonichi that I kind of just don't want to mess with it. And I think I'm going to get another one for next year. All right. Well, decision making live on the podcast. You heard it here first. I'll be back next week with August Q&A. I have lots of questions queued up. And then, as promised, I have some guests as well in the lineup for the back half of August. So I will see you here next Monday. If you have tried either of these planners and love them or don't love them or have thoughts on them, I'd love to hear them. As always, you can find notes at theshoebox.com, theshubox.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll be in your feed next Monday.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.